for me, Germany is not the country I wanna spend the rest of my life. I feel very home in Australia. It was very funny for me when I flew to Australia, when I actually moved there, and the plane hit the tarmac, and I could feel it in my heart. I was like, I'm home, you know?
Hey there, it's Carly with the Expat Focus podcast. The current pandemic has left a lot of people around the world in limbo, and Christina Sinn is one of them. A German expat, Christina should be in Australia right now, where she's been based for the past few years after living in China and the UK. But she and her partner happened to be visiting Germany when Covid-19 hit its first peak and international borders closed, and now they're stuck there. Christina's going to share the challenges they've experienced in trying to get back to their life in Australia, in needing to adjust to their new life back in Germany, and how she and her partner have worked through needing to drastically change their plans. Christina, you're an expat currently stuck in your home country. Where are you in the world, and where in the world should you be right now?
Yeah, so currently I'm in Germany. I'm in Aachen. So Aachen is a smaller city next to Cologne. Cologne probably people know a little bit better. Yeah, and I should be still in Sydney, or rather moving up to Newcastle by now. But yeah, it all came a bit differently actually as planned.
So Germany is pretty far from Australia.
Yeah.
And as I understand it, coronavirus is what has got you stuck in your passport country. Tell
Yeah.
me what happened.
Yeah, so my partner and I, we lived together in Sydney, or we also met in Sydney. And funnily enough, he's German too. So he has family in Germany. And so we were on a road trip. Luckily, we had already dissolved our flat because we wanted to be on a road trip for a couple of weeks and then move from Sydney to Newcastle and establish ourselves new there. And then in the middle of our road trip, he got some family news, and from one day to another, we basically had to pack our stuff, put it all into storage, and fly over to Germany to sort out things, what was happening in his family and stuff, and help there. So we actually had planned to fly over quickly, organize stuff and help out, and stay here for maximum 2 months. When we were here for like 2 weeks, it was literally just 2 weeks, the stuff with coronavirus went to like peak season sort of thing. And the measures were like, that was when the really harsh measures started to kick in and all the countries shut their borders. And then Australia, I think, I'm not sure, but I think Australia was one of the countries that closed their borders quite early on. So we thought like, yeah, okay, well, this is now the first step of measures to make sure it doesn't go, or it doesn't get worse and all that kind of stuff. And we have a couple of more weeks to stay here anyways. So until then, the borders will be open again. But then the weeks went by and the month went by, and we thought like, what the heck? It's not getting, there's no change. The borders are staying closed and we can't go over because for us, it's also with the visa situation. We are in the process of getting PR.
That's permanent residency for Australia.
Yes, exactly, yeah. And I think if we would have stayed 2 weeks longer in the country, we probably would have it by now, because it was literally just like one more paper, send it in, and then done and dusted sort of thing. But because we had to fly over then, and then they closed the borders, they also closed the processing of all these visas, because what good does it do when you have somebody in a foreign country, you process their PR, you give them their PR, and then they come back. So you have more people or you have the risk of more people bringing in COVID, right? So this is not like an official statement. That is our explanation of it all. There is no processing happening. Yeah, so that's why we actually can't go back. That's why we're stuck here and basically waiting until Australia decides to start processing visas again.
If I wanted to go back to
Exactly.
Australia, theoretically, I could apply and probably
Yeah,
have a case for going back to Australia at the moment. But that doesn't apply to you because of your visa status when you left Australia?
exactly. Because we're not having PR yet, so we don't count as with PR. You still don't count as a citizen, but you have the rights, kind of 90% of a citizen, right?
To be brought back to Australia if you're stuck overseas during something
Yeah,
like
so
COVID.
we would have been able to fly over, but because we don't have it yet, we're still in the processing. We don't have anything, to go from,
So how can you solve this problem of getting back? Is it just a waiting game?
Basically, yeah. So we either have to wait for them to start processing visas again and processing our visa and giving us PR so that we have the right to fly over, or we have to wait until the country feels confident enough to open their borders again, be it because of a vaccine or medication or whatever, one way or the other. It's, for us, it's a complete waiting game now. Yeah.
You and your partner had packed up your lives in Sydney. You were on an Aussie road trip, the classic Australian road trip at the time that you had to
Yeah.
come to Germany. It sounds like, you were preparing for this move to Newcastle. You were in a state of transition anyway. But what did you leave behind? Were you both working in Australia? Is there a real kind of life and jobs and things to really get back to over there?
I worked as a freelancer, so I just contracted in several design studios. And you know how it is with freelancing, you just go in and out, and it's quite flexible, and you don't have this one company you're connected to. So there's not a job waiting for me there, or that I'm risking to losing now or something. And for my partner, it's quite similar. He's a metal fabricator. He worked at these maintenance shutdowns for like electrical plant or something. And so you go in as well for a couple of months and work there, and then you move on to the next thing, So job-wise, there's nothing that we're risking losing. And luckily, flat-wise, we dissolved everything and put our basic stuff, the stuff that you really want to keep and that you don't want to sell. We have a little storage room that we're renting, where we put our stuff. The only thing that was a little bit tricky was that we had parked our car on the side of the road when we went to the airport, and registration ran out. Yeah, we had to ship the keys over to a mechanic. Then the mechanic was so kind and went and got the car and did the safety and drove it back. And it was like 2 months hassle to get this resolved. But
so your car is basically homeless in Australia while you're in Germany.
It's stranded on the side of the road. Poor thing.
Well, I guess it's a much better situation than if you'd left, a pet in limbo or something.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. No. And we were so glad that we had already dissolved everything, because, the rents in Sydney are not cheap, and having then to pay things like 6 months or maybe a year ongoing whilst you're not in the country is quite a financial pressure. And so we were happy that it happened in the way it happened, in that sense, even though it was not.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like a very fortunate situation by
Yes.
accident that you guys have found yourselves in.
Yeah. We were super lucky in that sense. Yeah.
So what have you been doing with your time now that you're stuck in Germany, as you put it?
So, on the beginning, when we arrived here, like I said, there were some family things we had to take care of, and that took a lot of time and effort. And then we have a house here, And so we had to sort out the house. That was a lot of work as well. So I think the first 2 months was just really organizing, sorting stuff. And then after those 2 months, we started realizing, oh yeah, okay, well, this won't change as fast as we thought it would change. So our mindset shifted to, okay, we're going to stay probably not only 2 months, we're probably going to stay until maybe end of year or next year, January. Okay, so we put our minds to this kind of time frame. So we started with Airbnb to generate a little bit of money, and caught up with some friends and, started to establish a little bit of a life here instead of just, okay, we're coming in and we're leaving quickly again, It was a little bit of a process to get from being busy organizing things, then realizing, oh, we need to stay at least until next year, January, then settling in a little bit into this coronavirus bubble and meeting up with friends here and there and trying to generate a revenue stream in a sense.
To keep your lives going, yeah.
Yeah, to keep something going, because on the beginning, you sit here and you think like, it won't take that long, and you don't have that mindset of, I'm starting here a new life. You're still with your head and your heart in Australia. So you're not really committed to starting something here afresh. And so you start using your savings and you think like, well, okay, another month. And then suddenly you hit that point where you say like, oh, this can't go on for as long as this seems to be going on, So you have to start then constantly rethinking your plan in a way. And that, I have to say, I found really exhausting.
You've lived in a few different countries, so it's been quite a few years since you have been full-time back in Germany. How has that process been, mentally adjusting? And what sort of perspective do you think you've brought back to your home country after so many years abroad?
To be honest, for me, it was really hard to adjust. For me, Germany is not the country I wanna spend the rest of my life. I feel very home in Australia. It was very funny for me when I flew to Australia, when I actually moved there, and the plane hit the tarmac, and I could feel it in my heart. I was like, I'm home, So I have somehow this strange connection to Australia, and I feel really home there. And even though I'm born in Germany and I lived in Germany until my mid-20s, Australia is more of a home to me than Germany. So for me, it was a really tough pill to swallow, to have to come to terms with having to stay here for so much longer than I actually anticipated. On the other hand, I realized the beauty of Germany as well again, so I made an effort now since the time we're here, to really discover Germany a little bit more again and go on little day trips. Yeah, really look at my surrounding, and I can see that I develop a new appreciation for Germany, if I want to say it like that. Yeah.
It must be nice to have all this bonus time with family and friends. I know that's the thing I miss the most, being in France and not being able to pop over to mum and dad's place to have a coffee and puddle around in the garden.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky because of COVID, right? So that didn't happen too much. And also I live quite far away from where I come from originally within Germany. So there was not more in the sense of physical family time. But what was nice is that you're in the same time zone for once. And then it was so much easier to just, pick up the phone and just call for half an hour, or, just a quick chat on the phone, because you're just on the same time schedule. So that was really lovely. You're much more likely to pick up the phone and have a quick chat, rather than every month or something, these 5-hour Skype calls where you try to pack in everything that you experienced. So you feel a bit more connected in that sense, because you feel like your friends and your family have a closer experience of your life.
Yeah, definitely. Christina, I'm curious, you've lived in the UK, you've lived in China, you've lived in Australia. Now you're in Germany during the coronavirus crisis. Having lived in these different countries and observing how they're all handling the pandemic, how do you feel? Do you feel like one country is doing better than others?
As much as I feel, because we're here in our little bubble in the house with our handful of friends, we're not getting too much in touch with all those restrictions or whatever. So the only thing I really experience is, well, I have to wear a mask when I go shopping. That's basically it for me. We live quite close to the Belgian border, so we realized that when the borders were closed, that was a really strange feeling for a European to feel like, oh, I can't just cross over to Belgium, or I can't just cross over to the Netherlands. That felt strange, because I think we Europeans are so used to this open border lifestyle. And then what I hear from friends in London or also back in Sydney, for them it doesn't seem to be much any different than to me. You know, they also say just, yeah, we have to wear a mask when we go shopping, or we try and keep to ourselves a little bit. But it feels like for everybody, or everybody is doing their bit to have that kind of feeling of normality.
It really feels like the whole world is just in this holding pattern.
Yeah.
So what does the future hold for you guys? I know there's so much uncertainty right now, but you were about to make a big change in your lives, moving from the big city lights of Sydney to a smaller, but still significant city in Australia of Newcastle. What was the plan that you'll eventually be getting back to?
So we had planned to, move to Newcastle and just get a little bit out of the hustle and the bustle from Sydney, and have a little bit of a calmer and more laid back lifestyle. So we actually wanted to buy a bus and convert it into a apartment, and then live a little bit like self-sustainable and flexible in terms of location and so on. So that is now put on the back burner in a sense. We have now, because I said I can't live with the thought of, okay, maybe next month the borders open. No, maybe next month. You know, I can't live with this kind of thought or mindset in my head. So we said, okay, we don't know how long it will take until the borders open up again. So we committed now to staying 3 years in Germany. And my partner has enrolled in a bachelor's course to study engineering in renewable energies. And I committed now to finding a job in Germany as a creative director. We're trying to establish our lives here now for let's say the next 3 to 4 years probably, because we reckon that might be actually a pretty realistic time frame.
That's a significant change of mindset, isn't it?
Yes. And that didn't come easy, and it took several months to get to this conclusion. Of course, you know, and that's the problematic thing, you know. Let's say now in 6 months the borders actually do open up again and we do get our visa, then we have to switch our mindsets again probably. But the thing is, at some point you need to find a point where you say, okay, I commit now to this, and you frame your mindset around that, because otherwise you constantly in between and you dabble around in a couple of little things, but you don't commit, so nothing happens as well. My partner, he read some articles where Australia was asked, do you think next year in July, August, you will open your borders again? And Australia was like, well, this would be nice, but probably not likely, you know. So, and this would be another year. So we said we have to change our mindset and commit now, because what do? You can't live 3 years in like a in-between state,
Yeah, it's not healthy for anybody.
No.
And just finally, I'm curious if you're committing to 3 years in Germany, whether it takes 3 years or not for borders to open up again. Fingers crossed it's a little bit sooner.
Yes.
Does that change your visa status in Australia at all? Does it put you in the back of the line for permanent residency, or has the time you've spent in Australia count and will continue to count in 3 years' time?
Yeah, that's another thing we don't know really. If Australia would really give us the visa with, let's say, in 3 years, then we would see what the requirements are. If they say like, oh, well, it took now so long, you have to go through the procedure partially again now, or if they would just put a stamp on and say, you got your visa now. We just don't know, and that is the whole bottom line of everything. We just don't know. And if Australia would open their borders or give us the visa within a year, then we would have to think then in that moment, what are we going to do now, and then again adjust, and maybe then fly over and sort out our stuff over there and get the visa kick-started or at least activated in that sense, because I think you have to be in the country to then get it activated. Yeah, and because we have still stuff in Sydney, so that would be a good chance to sort that out. But as I said, with every new information, with every new opportunity you get, it might just literally shift your entire life plan completely around again, So yeah, it's not an easy time.
You said you've really had to change your mindset in the last few months to really think about, I'm in Germany for the next 3 years, and provide yourself some anchors and a base and a way to move forward. What's your best advice to people that might be stuck in a similar type of limbo right now about how to really ground themselves in the situation they're in and make peace, I guess?
Yeah, I think making peace is really important. And what helped me was to really focus on the things that I can control. I can't control what Australia does with its borders. I can't control how the COVID situation develops. And I can't control what Australia does with my visa, So it's no point in focusing on that. The thing what I can control is, how is my situation here in Germany? Do I catch up with my friends? Do I get, can I recharge my battery by talking to the people that do me good, that help me recharge? What do I want to achieve now for me, So for me, it was now, okay, I don't want to sit at home all day long and drain my savings. I want to go out there and find a job, So I put all my efforts in that now. And for example, for a short-term solution to generate revenue in a quick way, we opened our house up to Airbnb, and we have now quite constantly guests staying with us. And so, you just need to really look at, what can I do to help myself in this situation now, and really focus on that rather than on where you wanted to be with your original plan, which didn't work out, because it didn't work out and you can't change anything. There's no point in dwelling on it in that sense. And I know that is not an easy shift to make, because initially you stick and you want to cling on to that original plan, but and I think give yourself that time to still hope and cling on that plan. And when you're ready to let go of it, or make baby steps towards letting go of it, and then focus on the things that you can do now in this kind of framework, and focus on that. Yeah.
That's it for this episode. If you have questions for Christina or want to share your own experience, head over to expatfocus.com. At the bottom of our homepage, you'll find links to our Facebook groups. Be sure to check out our other episodes. We interview expats and experts on all aspects of life abroad. If you like what we do, please leave us a review on your favourite podcast app, and I'll catch you next time.